The alien girl in the rain. The rain was falling hard. Cold and fast, David pulled down the metal shutter of his garage. The last sound of the day echoing in the quiet town. It was a small human colony on the edge of Sector 9. Far from Earth, no one came here unless they wanted to be forgotten. And that was just how David liked it. He wiped his hands with a dirty towel and turned to head home. But then, he heard something. A soft sound like crying, mixed with the rain. He stopped and listened again. Yes, it was crying small. Weak and close, David followed the sound. Stepping into the alley behind the garage there, in the shadows, was a small figure sitting on the ground. She looked no older than 10. Her skin was pale silver, glowing slightly under the rain. Her long black hair was wet and stuck to her face. Her eyes were big and purple. Filled with fear, David took a step closer. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked gently. The girl looked up at him, her lips trembling. "Please," she whispered. "Don't send me back." David crouched down, surprised by her voice. She spoke fluent Earth English. "Who are you?" he asked. "Where are your parents?" The girl hugged her knees tighter. "My name is Nara," she said. "My stepmother threw me out. She said I'm broken." David blinked, unsure what to say. He looked around, but no one else was there. No guards, no drones, no ships. Just this small girl, all alone in the rain. He took off his jacket and wrapped it around her. "You can't stay out here," he said. "Come inside. We'll figure this out." Inside the garage, David gave her a towel and a warm drink. She sat quietly, staring at the lights like she'd never seen electricity before. "Where are you from?" he asked. "I was born on Elora," she said. "But I think my dad was human." David raised an eyebrow. "Earth human?" She nodded. "He disappeared before I was born. I don't know his name, only that he was from this colony." David leaned back, taking a breath. Half alien, half human. Abandoned by her stepmother, now standing in his garage. It was like something out of an old war file. Hybrids were rare, and most were hidden or destroyed by powerful families afraid of scandal. Nara looked at him with wet eyes. "Please," she said again. "Be my dad, just for a little while, until I'm safe." David didn't know what to say. He hadn't been a father, and he didn't plan to be one. But something in her voice, so soft, so broken, hit a place in his heart he thought was long dead. Maybe it was because he had lost his own daughter years ago, during the Orion War, or maybe it was because this girl had no one else. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could speak, a sharp sound cut through the silence. A drone. It floated outside the garage window. A black orb with a red scanning light. David froze. That wasn't a local drone. It was military-grade Elorian tech. Nara gasped and ducked behind the workbench. "It's her," she whispered. "She sent them. They're looking for me." David moved fast, hitting a button under his desk. The garage's metal walls shifted slightly as hidden shielding activated. The drone scanned for a moment longer, then flew away. David turned to her, serious now. "What did you do?" "Nothing," she said. "She just hates me. She said I'm a mistake, a danger to her rule." David rubbed his face, thinking hard. He didn't want trouble. He didn't want politics. But now he had a scared hybrid child in his care, and a drone marked her location. He looked at her again, shivering in his oversized jacket, staring at him like he was her last hope. In a way, he was. "I don't know how to be a dad," David said. "You don't have to know," Nara replied. "Just don't leave me outside again." He sighed, stood up, and walked over to the storage room. "You'll sleep in here tonight," he said. "We'll figure out the rest in the morning." As he closed the door, his old military badge hidden on the shelf lit up for the first time in 12 years. A signal, triggered by the drone scan. David stared at it, then back at the door where the girl slept. Trouble had arrived, and this time it had a name: Nara. The alien girl who just wanted to be safe. Asterisk. The secrets she carries. Morning came with an uneasy silence. The rain had stopped, but the clouds hung low, gray and heavy. David brewed a pot of strong coffee, the bitter smell filling the garage. Nara sat on the floor, wrapped in a blanket. Her purple eyes wide and curious, she watched him, her small hands tracing patterns in the dust. It was clear she was not used to Earth life. David handed her a mug of warm liquid, careful not to spill. She sipped slowly, shivering a little. "Where do you live?" he asked, breaking the silence. She shook her head. "I don't have a home," she whispered. "My stepmother kicked me out." "Said I don't belong anywhere," David frowned, trying to process what he had gotten himself into. He had always wanted peace, quiet, and no problems. Now he had a strange half-human girl in his garage. Hiding from powerful forces, he decided not to ask too many questions. At least not yet. Instead, he asked, "Do you have any powers?" Nara hesitated, her hands trembling. I can feel people's feelings," she admitted softly. "Sometimes, I know what someone thinks before they say it." David blinked, unsure how to respond. This was beyond human, beyond what he had ever seen, and yet she seemed scared and small, not dangerous. Suddenly, a soft hum vibrated through the garage. David froze, scanning the room. "I hear it too," Nara whispered, almost scared. The hum grew louder, a faint vibration in the metal walls, and then a holographic image appeared above the workbench, flickering blue. It was Dr. Felix, a human with cybernetic implants. His face was serious, almost urgent. "David," he said, "I see you've found her." David stepped back, startled. "How do you know about her?" "She's not just any hybrid," Felix said, eyes glowing faintly from his implants. "Her stepmother is dangerous, and she carries secrets that could change everything," Nara gasped, clutching David's sleeve. "What secrets?" she asked, voice shaking. Felix looked at her carefully. "Nara, your human father was not just a regular man." "You mean he's alive?" she asked, hope flickering in her eyes. Felix shook his head. "No, he left something for you on Earth, something hidden, something important." David felt his heart tighten. A hidden message, a legacy, something that could make her a target. And that's exactly why she had been thrown out. "Your stepmother wants more than to control you," Felix warned. "She wants to erase your existence, take what your father left, and use it for her war." Nara hugged herself, shivering. I don't know if I can fight her," she whispered. David knelt down beside her, looking into her glowing eyes. "You're stronger than you think," he said, "and I won't let her take you." Suddenly, the garage doors shuddered. A shadow passed outside the frosted window. David grabbed a metal pipe. Stepping in front of Nara, the doors rattled again, heavy and deliberate. "Who's there?" he shouted, but there was no answer. Only silence, broken by the faint hum of scanners far above. Nara's eyes widened, and for a moment, David saw fear mixed with something else, memory, maybe, or instinct, I think. "She knows I'm here," Nara said softly. David's mind raced, remembering the drone from last night. They were not just looking for her, they were coming. And soon, Felix's hologram flickered again, showing a map of Earth and orbiting ships. "David," he said urgently, "you have limited time. The black ship is moving toward your sector. It scans for energy signatures. Nara's signature will show up immediately." David clenched his jaw, glancing at Nara. "Then we have to move her," he said. Now, Nara looked down at her small hands, trembling. "I don't want to leave everything behind," she said quietly. David crouched, holding her hands gently. "You won't be alone," he said. "I'll take care of you. We'll face it together." As the morning sun broke faintly through the clouds, David made a decision. He would take Nara somewhere safe, somewhere no one could find her. But he knew it wouldn't be easy. The stepmother was clever, powerful, and relentless, and Nara was not just a child anymore. She was a key, a secret weapon in her own right. And if they failed, she would be lost forever. Nara looked up at David, her wet hair sticking to her cheeks. "Please, be my dad," she whispered again. David swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words. "I will," he said, softly but firmly, "and I'll make sure no one hurts you again, outside." The black ship lingered silently above the clouds. A silent predator, scanning, waiting, and below, in a quiet garage, a human man and an alien girl prepared for the fight that would change both of their lives. The man he used to be, David drove in silence, the small hovercar moving slowly along the deserted streets. Nara sat beside him, her small hands clutching the edge of the seat, eyes wide and alert. She had never seen a car before, not like this, and every passing light made her gasp softly. David stole a glance at her, her silver skin almost glowing in the dim dashboard light. He had never felt responsibility like this before, not for a child, not for anyone. The quiet hum of the engine was broken by her voice, soft but curious. "David, why do they want me so badly?" He sighed, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "Because you're special," he said slowly. "More than they know, more than even you know." Nara tilted her head, purple eyes questioning. I just want a home, a dad. Someone who will protect me," she whispered. David's chest tightened. He knew that feeling all too well. Once he had a family, a daughter he lost in a war far from here. He had left that life behind, swore never to pick up arms again, yet here he was, pulled back into a fight he didn't want, by a girl who wasn't even his daughter, yet somehow already felt like one. They arrived at an old safe house, abandoned and half forgotten inside. The air smelled of dust and metal, the walls lined with old tools and crates. David motioned for Nara to sit. "Stay here," he said, moving to a small crate and pulling out a sealed envelope. Inside was a photo, faded and worn, a younger David, smiling with a girl who looked like she belonged on Earth. His daughter gone years ago, taken by the Orion War. He held it tightly, letting the memories burn quietly in his mind. Nara peeked over his shoulder, curious. "Who is she?" she asked, voice trembling. "My daughter," David said softly, almost a whisper. Nara's small hand found his, squeezing it gently. "I think you can protect me too," she said, almost as if she knew. David swallowed hard, nodding. "Yes, I will," he said, feeling a strange warmth he hadn't felt in years. Suddenly, a faint beep sounded from a corner. David froze, recognizing the signal instantly, his old military instincts kicking in. He crouched low, pulling Nara behind a metal crate. Through the window, he saw the black ship hovering closer, scanners sweeping the streets below. It wasn't just looking, it was hunting. And they were closing in. David moved quickly, pulling out a small device from his pocket. A holographic map projected in front of him, showing the city, the black ship, and nearby patrol drones. "We don't have much time," he said, voice steady but urgent. Nara's eyes were wide, but she nodded, trusting him completely. You were a soldier?" she asked quietly. David didn't answer at first. He had sworn never to speak of it, but now there was no choice. He had to prepare her for what was coming. "Yes," he admitted finally. "I used to fight for Earth. Far from here, in wars you wouldn't believe. I lost everything in those wars, and I left it behind." Nara looked at him, awe in her eyes. "You're like a hero," she whispered. David shook his head. "No, I'm just a man trying to survive." But inside, he knew the truth. He was the only one who could protect her now. He pulled out a small case, opening it to reveal old weapons and gadgets. Nothing fancy, just enough to give them a chance. "Listen," he said, kneeling in front of her. "I can teach you how to hide, how to defend yourself. You have powers, but you need control. Can you do that?" Nara nodded quickly, determination shining in her glowing eyes. "I'll try," she said, her voice firm. David smiled faintly. "Good. That's the start." As they prepared, a sound outside froze them both. Metal scraping on concrete, faint but deliberate. Someone or something was moving close. David's hand went to the nearest weapon. Nora crouched low, trembling but silent. The safe house walls seemed to close in. Outside, shadows moved fast. Figures dressed in black, their faces hidden. Approaching with precision, David whispered, "Stay behind me." He knew the moment of confrontation had come. The past he had tried to escape was here. And this time, it wasn't just about survival. It was about protecting Nara, the small alien girl who had asked him to be her dad. And for the first time in years, he felt alive, not as a soldier, not as a loner, but as someone with a reason to fight. The shadows stopped outside, scanning the street. David could hear the faint hum of scanners attached to their armor. Nara's breathing was quiet but nervous. He whispered, "Remember, focus. Feel their emotions. Sense them." She nodded, eyes wide, trying. The first strike would come in moments, and everything they had fought for, everything they wanted, would hang in the balance. David clenched his jaw, ready for the coming storm. The man he used to be, the soldier, the fighter, the protector, was back. But this time, he wasn't fighting for a mission or a war. He was fighting for a family he had never had, and a girl who believed in him more than anyone ever had. Outside, the black ship hovered silently, its scanners sweeping the city. Inside, a human man and an alien girl prepared to face what no one else could stop. The past and the present collided, and the fight for survival and for a new kind of family had only just begun. Asterisk, the blood of two worlds. The night was silent, but it was heavy with danger. Outside, the black ship hung in the sky like a shadow of doom, its scanners sweeping the city below. David crouched behind the wall of the safe house, eyes sharp, every muscle tense. Nara clung to his side, trembling, but trying to control herself. "Remember what I taught you," he whispered. "Focus on their feelings, sense them, anticipate them." Nara nodded, her small hands glowing faintly silver as she tried to reach out with her mind. She could feel it, the soldiers outside. Their anger, their fear, their orders. Her heart raced. But she forced herself to stay calm. She wasn't just hiding anymore. She was preparing to fight. The first wave of intruders moved carefully, scanning the streets with high-tech rifles. David peeked around the corner, calculating. Waiting for the right moment, he grabbed a small EMP device from his belt, a weapon that could short-circuit the scanners and drones. With a flick of his wrist, it flew silently across the street, hitting the first drone. Sparks flew, the device shorted out, and the soldiers cursed loudly. Giving away their position, David sprang into action, striking the nearest soldier with precise, practiced movements. Years of combat experience flowed through him. Every punch, every kick, every block perfect. Nara watched, fear and awe mixing together. Then she felt something inside her, a sudden surge of energy. Her hands lit up brighter, and with a sudden push, the air around her soldier enemy rippled. He staggered, thrown back as if by a strong wind. His armor cracked. David's eyes widened. "She's stronger than I thought," he muttered, a mix of fear and pride in his voice. Nara blinked, shocked at what she had just done. I didn't mean to," she whispered. David crouched beside her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "It's okay," he said. "You're learning, and you're not alone. Use it carefully, but trust yourself." The battle outside grew louder. More soldiers arriving, some with energy shields, others with advanced rifles. David and Nara moved quickly, ducking behind debris, using every trick, every shadow, every corner to their advantage. Nara's power grew with each encounter, her glowing hands pushing back enemies, creating a barrier of force that made David realize she was not just a child. She was something extraordinary, something that could change the balance between worlds. Suddenly, a piercing alarm echoed through the safe house. David recognized the sound Elurian scanners. Deep and precise. "They're inside," he said sharply. Drawing his blaster, Nara grabbed his hand, her own energy flaring, protective, bright. Together, they faced the advancing soldiers, one wall separating them from death. The stepmother's voice came through a communicator, cold and sharp. "Give her to me, David," she said, "or everything you love will burn. She is not just a girl, she carries the legacy of two worlds, and I will take it from her, even if I destroy you in the process." David's jaw tightened. Nara's small hand squeezed his, fear and determination mingling. "You won't have her," he said, voice low and dangerous. The words were not just a promise, they were a declaration. A challenge. The soldiers breached the wall. Crashing in like a wave, David moved like lightning, taking down two with his blaster, tossing one into a pile of crates. Nara followed, focusing, letting her energy flow. The room alive with silver light, the enemies faltered, stunned, their weapons flickering as her powers pushed back. David realized something terrifying and wonderful at the same time. Nara was a weapon, and she was learning to wield herself. The Stepmother's lieutenant, a towering figure in black armor, stepped forward. He raised a blade of glowing plasma, eyes scanning for weakness. David grabbed a metal rod and stepped in front of Nara, ready to protect her with his life. But Nara didn't hide. Her energy surged, a pulse of power knocking the lieutenant back. The air shimmered, walls cracked, and sparks flew everywhere. David's mind raced. This was no longer just survival. This was a battle for the life of a girl who could be the bridge between humans and aliens. Her power, combined with his skills, made them a force the Stepmother had not expected. But the danger was far from over. The black ship above, silent and waiting, still had its final move. Nara looked up at David, eyes glowing fiercely. I can do this, she said, almost whispering. David nodded, pride and fear mixing. Yes, you can, he said, and we will stop her together. Outside, the storm of the night raged on. Inside, a human man and an alien girl fought side by side. The walls of the safe house shook, sparks flying, and the world outside waited, unaware that the blood of two worlds was colliding here, in this small, quiet place, where a girl who had been abandoned and a man who had lost everything were becoming something greater than themselves. The Stepmother's army was strong, relentless and cruel, but together, David and Nara had a secret power no one could take away. Trust, courage, and the unbreakable bond between a human and the alien girl who had called him her dad. And in that moment, the battle for survival, for family, for two worlds, truly began. Asterisk, rescue from the stars. The night sky burned with streaks of distant stars. Above, the black ship hovered like a dark predator, scanning the city with cold precision. David and Nara had escaped the safe house. Moving silently through the shadows, the streets were empty. The rain of yesterday replaced by mist curling around abandoned buildings. David's heart pounded, but he kept his focus, every sense alert. Beside him, Nara's small hand glowed faintly, a beacon of courage. They took her, Nara whispered, voice trembling. David's jaw tightened, eyes narrowing. Who? He asked, though he already knew. Other hybrids, children. In stasis pods, Nara said, fear and guilt mixing in her tone. They want to use them. Like I was going to be used, David's mind raced, recalling the holographic map from Dr. Felix. The Stepmother's ship wasn't just a patrol, it was a harvesting vessel, collecting hybrids for a secret weapon. He clenched his fists, anger surging. We're not letting them get away with this, he said, voice low and steady. Nara nodded, determination growing in her glowing eyes. I want to help them, she said. I want to save them like you saved me. David knew she could do it. Her powers were strong, and together they were stronger than the Stepmother expected. But getting aboard the black ship would be dangerous. One wrong move, and Nara, the children, and even he could be lost forever. They reached the outskirts of the colony where an old scout ship rested. It was small, rusty, almost forgotten, but still functional. David opened the hatch, motioning for Nara to climb inside. The engines hummed to life, and the ship lifted off, breaking through the clouds above them. The black ship waited, scanning, aware of their escape. David's hands danced over the controls, navigating past orbital debris and security drones. Nara peered out the window, eyes wide at the vast expanse of space. I've never been this high, she whispered, awe in her voice. David smiled faintly. Then prepare yourself, he said, because we're going in. The black ship loomed ahead, enormous, cold and black as midnight. Its docking bay opened, a gaping maw waiting to swallow them whole. David piloted the scout ship carefully, dodging energy beams and automated turrets. Nara closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind. Sensing the flow of energy, she could feel the children inside. Faint pulses of life, trapped in stasis. Her power surged, guiding David like a beacon. He followed her instincts, weaving through the defenses, closer and closer to the docking bay. Suddenly, a blast rocked the scout ship. Throwing them off course, David's hands moved quickly. Stabilizing the controls, Nara's glowing hands flared, creating a shield of energy that deflected another shot. "This is it," David muttered. "Hold on." They shot forward, crashing through the docking bay's force field. The metal walls of the black ship shuddered as alarms blared. Inside, the corridor was dark and cold, lined with stasis pods, each containing a small hybrid child. Nara gasped, rushing forward, energy flaring from her hands. David followed closely, blaster ready, clearing the path as automated guards appeared. Nara's powers pushed them back, shimmering waves of force knocking them off balance. The children stirred, sensing freedom, awakening, but still trapped. Quickly, David shouted, "Get them out before more arrive." Nara placed her hands on each pod, one by one, unlocking the containment with energy pulses. The children floated free, their small faces full of fear and confusion. David guided them toward the scout ship, her powers protecting the group like a glowing shield. Suddenly, the stepmother appeared, her tall figure framed by glowing plasma light. "David," she said coldly, "you cannot win. This is my world, my order, and you are nothing." David stood in front of the children, blaster raised. "Not today," he said. Voice firm, Nara's eyes flared, brighter than ever. A wave of energy slammed into the stepmother, pushing her back, the force reverberating through the corridor. The stepmother snarled, activating hidden weapons on her armor. But David moved with precision, striking her weak points. Nara followed, focusing all her energy. Every pulse synchronized with his attacks. The corridor shook, metal bending and sparks flying. And then, finally, the stepmother stumbled, retreating to the ship's core. Defeated for now, David breathed heavily, looking at Nara and the freed children. "We did it." "For now," he said, Nara's small face lit with pride. But fear remained. There were more dangers ahead. The black ship above, the fleet waiting, and the stepmother's return. All of it would come for them soon. But for now, they were free. And the bond between David and Nara had grown stronger, unbreakable, a human and an alien, fighting together, for survival, for family, and for a chance at a future that neither had dared to hope for. And as the scout ship lifted into the stars, carrying its precious cargo away from danger, a message flashed on the console, urgent, red, and blinking. "The fleet is coming. Prepare for war. Asterisk the choice to be human." The stars stretched endlessly outside the scout ship. A cold silence filled the cabin, broken only by the soft hum of the engines. David sat across from Nara, watching her small hands glow faintly as she rested on her lap. The freed children were quiet, sleeping for the first time in fear. But the tension was thick, like a storm waiting to break. "They're coming," Nara whispered, her eyes flicking toward the viewport. David nodded, voice low, calm but heavy with warning. "Yes, the fleet is close. The stepmother isn't finished. And the choice you make now will decide everything." Nara looked up at him, confusion and fear mixing in her glowing eyes. "What choice?" she asked, her voice trembling. David leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "You're a hybrid," he said. "Part human, part alien. You have the power to control your destiny. You can use your strength to dominate, to fight and destroy. Or you can choose to be human, to trust, to protect, to connect." Nara's hands glowed brighter, energy pulsing with every heartbeat. "I don't know if I can," she whispered, almost to herself. David reached out, placing a steady hand on hers. "You can. You already are choosing. Look at what you've done. Saved the children, fought with me, protected life. That is human, Nara. That is what makes you human." Suddenly, The ship shuddered violently, throwing them off balance. Alarms blared, red lights flashing. Incoming! David shouted, grabbing his blaster. Through the viewport, the Stepmother's flagship appeared. Immense, black and deadly. Energy beams lanced toward them, shaking the small scout ship. David maneuvered sharply, dodging, weaving. But the flagship's weapons were precise, deadly. Nara's eyes flared, bright silver energy radiating from her small frame. David glanced at her, nodding once. "Now, Nara, your choice," he shouted. She closed her eyes, focusing, feeling every pulse, every life around her. Her mind connected to the children, to David, to the scouts below. Then with a surge, she unleashed a wave of energy, powerful but controlled. The flagship shuddered as its weapons overloaded. Its systems failing. For a moment, time felt still, the universe holding its breath. The Stepmother's voice cut through the calm, furious and sharp. "You dare defy me, hybrid? You are mine to command, to use, to break." Nara opened her eyes, her glowing gaze locking onto the Stepmother's ship. "No," she said, voice steady and filled with strength. "I choose to protect, not destroy." David felt a weight lift from his shoulders, pride and relief washing over him. The children stirred, sensing her calm power. And for the first time, hope filled the cabin. "You did it," David said softly. "You made the choice that defines who you are." Nara looked down, shy but glowing with a quiet confidence. I'm human," she whispered, almost in awe. "Yes," David said, smiling. "And that is more than anyone could take from you, outside." The flagship faltered, its systems failing, forced to retreat. The Stepmother's voice screamed through the calm one last time before silence fell. "You will regret this." Nara leaned against David, exhausted but relieved. I was afraid," she said, voice soft. David pulled her close, holding her steady. "Fear is human," he said. "But courage is what makes us stronger. You faced your fear, and you chose the right path. That is what matters." The freed children began to move around the cabin, curious and safe for the first time. They looked at Nara with admiration, their faces reflecting hope. David glanced at them, then back at Nara, feeling the weight of everything they had endured. This is just the beginning," he said, voice calm but firm. "But together, we can face whatever comes next." Nara looked out the window. The stars no longer cold, but filled with light and possibility. "I will protect them," she said quietly, determination in every word. "And I will protect this world," David nodded, pride swelling in his chest. "You're ready," he said, almost to himself. She smiled faintly, glowing softly. Her human heart and alien strength balanced perfectly. For the first time, she felt whole. And for David, the pain of the past, the wars, the loss, the loneliness began to fade, replaced by hope, family, and purpose. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, a silent witness to the choice that had been made. A human choice, a hybrid's courage, a father and daughter who had found each other against impossible odds. And somewhere, in the vastness of space, the Stepmother retreated, planning her next move. But for now, the universe was theirs, and humanity, in its simplest and strongest form, had won. *human. Forever, the stars stretched endlessly above the scout ship. Silver and calm, David sat at the helm, hands steady on the controls. Nara stood beside him, small but strong, her silver glow dimmed to a soft shimmer. The freed children gathered around, tired but safe, their eyes wide with wonder at the vastness of space. David glanced at Nara, seeing not just an alien child, but a being who had made a choice to protect, to care, to be human in heart and action. "You did it," he said softly, voice carrying pride and awe. Nara turned, small smile on her lips. "We did it together," she said, her words simple, but filled with the weight of their journey. The black ship, dark and menacing, was gone from orbit. The Stepmother had retreated, but her shadow lingered in the minds of those who had fought her. Her power had been strong, her ambition ruthless, Yet even she could not break the bond formed between a human and the alien girl who had called him Dad. David looked down at the children, seeing the fear that had haunted them fade, replaced by hope. These kids, they have a future now, he said, voice low. Nara nodded. And I'll protect them, she said, determination in every word. You're ready, David said softly, pride swelling in his chest, ready to be part of this world, part of this family. A soft alarm blinked on the console, signaling a distant fleet. David and Nara exchanged a look, the tension returning briefly. We can face them, David said. Together, Nara reached for his hand, small fingers gripping his firmly. Yes. Together, she echoed, her eyes glowing softly in the dark cabin. Outside, the stars stretched infinitely, silent witnesses to their victory. For the first time, David felt a sense of peace, a quiet that had eluded him for years. No longer a soldier alone, no longer a man haunted by loss. Now he had a purpose, a family, and a child who had trusted him completely. Nara leaned on the railing of the scout ship, staring at the planets below. I've seen so many worlds, she said softly. But this is my home. David joined her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. And it will be, he said, as long as we protect it together. The children gathered near, laughing quietly, playing for the first time since the ordeal began. Nara watched them, a soft smile forming, realizing that she was no longer alone. She had a family, not by birth, but by choice. A human heart had welcomed her, and she had chosen to protect, to care, to fight, to be more than a weapon. David thought about the journey, the battles, the losses, the near escapes. Every danger had led to this moment, and he realized something profound. Being human was not about strength, or blood, or origin. It was about choice, about love, courage, and the willingness to protect those you care about. Nara had chosen it, the children had felt it, and he had embraced it fully. A distant signal blinked on the console, a greeting from the colonies. The humans had noticed the stepmother's retreat, and the hybrids were safe. Hope was spreading, slowly but surely, and David knew that this small victory was the start of something larger, a bridge between humans and hybrids, between worlds, a future built on trust, courage, and humanity. Nara turned to David, her small face glowing in the soft light. Will you really be my dad? She asked, hope shining in her eyes. David knelt, looking her in the eyes, his voice steady, warm, and full of promise. Yes, Nara, he said. I will be your dad. Forever, she smiled, hugging him tightly, a feeling of belonging, safety, and love filling her completely. The scout ship floated silently through the stars, carrying its passengers toward a new beginning. Behind them, the black ship disappeared into the darkness. Defeated for now, ahead of them, countless worlds awaited, full of challenges, wonders, and opportunities. But for David, Nara, and the children, the greatest journey had already begun, the journey of being human, together. As the first light of a distant sun reflected off the hull of the ship, David looked at Nara, at the children, at the vastness of space around them, and he whispered quietly, almost to himself, "We are human, forever." Nara repeated softly, a promise to herself, to him, to the universe, human. Forever. The stars stretched endlessly, and for the first time in a long time, the galaxy seemed quiet, peaceful, and full of hope. A human man, an alien girl, and a group of rescued children had shown the universe what it truly meant to be human. Not through power, not through war, but through love, courage, and choice. And that legacy would shine brighter than any star in the galaxy.